There is a specific kind of courage that doesn't look like courage at all. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive with a clean plan or certain footing or any guarantee that the landing won't hurt. It looks, from the outside, like a girl walking into a classroom 3 minutes late, unbothered, unhurried, eyes forward. But you knew what it was. You'd spent 2 years making yourself smaller, quieter. You'd learned to fold yourself into the shape of whatever space you were given, to need nothing loudly, to want nothing visibly. You'd done it so long, it had started to feel like personality, like this was simply who you were, the quiet one, the careful one, the one who sat in the third row and took good notes, and never asked for anything that could be taken away. Walking into that lecture hall 3 minutes late, with your pulse in your throat, and your face perfectly, professionally calm, had felt like remembering something you'd forgotten about yourself. And he had found you in 4 seconds. You were still thinking about those 4 seconds a week later. Your POV? The week after was strange. Not dramatic strange. Not anything you could point to and say there, that's the thing that changed. Just a low-frequency shift in the atmosphere, the particular tension of two people in the same room who are both pretending, very professionally, that a thing did not happen. Professor Jeon's lectures were the same. His expectations were the same. He stood at the front of the room in his dark slacks and his rolled sleeves and his expression of measured authority, and he was completely, impeccably normal. Except Monday, when he set your essay back on your desk, he lingered for exactly 1 second longer than necessary. You felt it without looking up. The pause. The heat of someone standing close, when they didn't need to be standing close. By the time you raised your eyes, he was already moving to the next desk, unhurried, unbothered, the picture of professionalism, but your paper had a 98 in the corner, and no margin notes. Every other student's paper had margin notes. Yours had nothing. Just the grade. Like he'd read every word and trusted it entirely and had nothing to correct. You stared at it longer than a grade warranted. Thursday's seminar arrived the way dreaded and anticipated things always do, too quickly. The topic was Plath. Of course it was Plath. The universe, you had decided, had a very specific sense of humor. You took your seat. Third row. Second from left. You arranged your notebook, and your pen and your expression, and you did not look at the front of the room more than was academically appropriate. Professor Jeon was already there. He was speaking to a student near the window, one hand in his pocket, the other gesturing to something in a text, and the afternoon light was doing something completely unreasonable to the line of his jaw, and you returned your eyes to your notebook immediately. Plath, you told yourself firmly. You are here for Plath. Discussion moved through its usual rhythm, the biographical readings, the feminist frameworks, the confessional poetry debate. You listened. You took notes. You behaved. Halfway through, Professor Jeon moved from his chair to the edge of the desk. He sat on it the way he sometimes did in seminar, less formal, like he was narrowing the distance between himself and the discussion, and crossed his arms loosely and said, "There's an argument that Plath's most controlled work is her most emotional. That restraint and feeling aren't opposites, that the precision of the language is the feeling, contained by form." Thoughts? The room gave its expected answers. You wrote in the margin of your notebook, small, restraint and feeling aren't opposites. Then, smaller, I know. The third row has been quiet. You looked up. He was looking at you. Not the general vicinity of the third row. Directly at you, with the expression he wore when he wanted a real answer and wasn't going to accept a safe one. 11 other students turned. You held his gaze. Restraint doesn't mean absence. It means the feeling is significant enough that it has to be managed. If it weren't that large, it wouldn't need that much form to contain it. Something moved in his eyes. So the tighter the structure, the more it's holding, you finished quietly. A beat of silence that lasted slightly longer than academic exchange required. Yes, he said. Just that. Low and even, and for a half second entirely for you before he moved the discussion forward. You looked back down at your notebook. Your pen had left a small mark on the page where your hand had pressed too hard. Professor Jeon's POV. He ended class 4 minutes early. He never ended class early. He had strong opinions about ending class early, none of them favorable, and yet here he was closing his notebook and dismissing 12 graduate students with their next reading before the hour was up. He needed them out of the room. Specifically, he needed her out of the room because she was sitting in the third row with her pen moving across her notebook and the afternoon light catching the side of her face, and he had just said the tighter the structure, the more it's holding in a register that had absolutely nothing to do with Sylvia Plath, and he was a grown man with a doctorate and he needed to collect himself. He watched them file out. Counted them. 11, 12. She was still sitting down. Of course she was. She was doing the thing she always did at the end of seminar, slow with her bag, unhurried, existing in her own time signature while the world moved around her. He'd noticed it in week 2 and never stopped noticing it. The way she never rushed. The way she packed her things like each one deserved care. The way she seemed, in a room full of people performing busyness, genuinely unbothered by the pace of everyone else. He went to the whiteboard, picked up the eraser, gave himself something to do with his hands. He could feel her in the room the way you feel a change in weather. You graded my essay differently, she said. He kept erasing. I grade all essays individually. No margin notes. Sometimes there's nothing to add. A pause. He heard the quiet sound of her standing, the soft shift of her bag. Professor Jeon. He turned around. She was standing by her desk, one strap of her bag on her shoulder, looking at him with those steady, careful eyes that he'd spent a semester trying not to look into for too long, because too long was when they stopped feeling like a professional observation and started feeling like something else entirely. I'm going to come to your office hours, she said. Simply. Like a statement of fact. Is that all right? He looked at her. The appropriate answer was, office hours are Tuesday between 2 and 4, the door remains open, all students are welcome. He said, yes. Your POV? You went on Tuesday. You told yourself the whole walkover that you were going to be normal about this. You were a graduate student with a legitimate academic reason to visit a professor's office. You could construct one easily enough. A question about the thesis chapter, a clarification on the reading list, and you were going to knock on the door and be completely, professionally normal. You knocked. Come in. His office was smaller than you'd imagined, and more personal than his classroom suggested. Books everywhere, not performatively, not arranged for appearance, but actually everywhere, stacked on surfaces and flagged with torn paper and clearly used. A plant on the windowsill that was slightly overgrown and completely thriving. His desk was the organized kind of messy, papers in distinct piles, two empty coffee cups, a pair of reading glasses folded on top of an open book. He looked up when you came in. He was in his chair, jacket off, shirt sleeves rolled up, and for a moment, just a moment, he looked startled in the way people look when something arrives that they were hoping for, and pretending they weren't. Then the professional expression assembled itself. The door, he said. Right. You pushed it too, not closed, not fully, just most of the way. The way that said I understand the rules and also I'm not afraid of this room. He watched you do it. Said nothing. You sat in the chair across from his desk. His office hours chair, plain, slightly uncomfortable, academically appropriate. Thesis, you said. Chapter 2. I wanted to talk through the argument structure. All right, he said. And then, carefully, is that why you came? You met his eyes. No, you said honestly. Something shifted in his face. He leaned back in his chair, slow, deliberate, and looked at you with the expression he wore when he was waiting for the rest. So, you gave it to him. You told him about the 2 years. About the friends who would worn your trust like borrowed clothes and returned it damaged. About the family who would made love feel like a conditional offer, renewable only if you stayed small enough, and quiet enough and undemanding enough. About learning to arrive early and choose your seat and keep the real things behind your teeth, because the cost of saying them to the wrong person was something you were still paying off. He didn't interrupt. He didn't offer anything in the shape of a solution. He just listened, with his full attention, the same attention he gave to texts worth taking seriously, and when you finished, the office was very quiet, and he was looking at you like you were something that deserved to be read carefully. You should know, he said after a moment, his voice low and even, that I'm trying very hard right now to say the appropriate thing. How's that going? His mouth curved. Just barely. Poorly. You looked at him across his desk. The afternoon had gone gold outside the window, the kind of light that made everything look slightly unreal, and you were sitting in an office hours chair falling for your professor, and somehow it felt like the most real thing that had happened to you in years. I'm not asking you to be anything other than my professor, you said softly. I needed to say a true thing to someone I thought could hold it. He stood up. Not quickly, deliberately, with the careful certainty of someone who would made a decision and was done negotiating with himself about it. He came around the side of his desk and stopped in front of you, close enough that you had to tip your chin up to hold his gaze, and you stayed seated, because if you stood up, the distance between you would become something neither of you could pretend wasn't intentional. You have never been invisible, he said. Quite certain. Not for one lecture. Not once. Your throat tightened. The first day, he continued, you chose the third row. Not the front, not the back. You opened your notebook before I'd said a word. And I thought, he stopped. Chose the next words with the precision he applied to everything. I thought, that's someone who's learned to be strategic about where they place themselves. Someone who knows which spots are worth holding. That's a very academic observation, you said quietly. I was trying to keep it academic. Was it working? He looked down at you. Something in his expression shifted, something beneath the professional composure, something that had been there for 10 weeks and was very tired of being managed. No, he said. Not particularly. The air between you changed. He was close. Not inappropriately, there was still space, still the careful distance of someone who understood what the space meant, but close enough that you could see the detail of him. The faint tiredness around his eyes from papers graded too late. The way his jaw was set, not from severity but from discipline. The way he was looking at you like he'd looked at every important text he'd ever read, like you warranted slowness. Like you deserved to be understood correctly. You stood up. Not toward him, just up, to your feet, Because sitting felt suddenly like a position of vulnerability you weren't prepared to maintain. But standing put you closer, and neither of you moved back, and the space that remained was small enough to be honest. Jungkook, you said. His name. Not Professor Jeon, just his name, and you felt him react to it the way people react to being called by their real name by someone who means it. His eyes dropped, briefly, barely, to your mouth. Came back up. Don't, he said quietly. And then, softer, not yet. Not yet. Not no. Not this is inappropriate and you should leave. Not any of the things that would have made this simple. Not yet. Your heart was doing something it had absolutely no business doing, and you were standing close enough to feel the warmth of him, and he was looking at you like you were simultaneously the best and most complicated thing that had happened to him all semester. How long, you asked, and your voice came out steadier than you deserved, is yet. His jaw tightened. May. Grades submit in May. That's 4 months. Yes. You counted. Something flickered in his expression, almost caught, almost amused, entirely too attractive for the current situation. I'm aware of the academic calendar. That's not what I asked. He looked at you. A long, quiet, carefully honest look. Yes, he said finally, low. I counted. The word landed in your chest like something warm and settling. Like the particular feeling of a door held open, not pushed, not demanded, just held. Patient. Certain. You breathed. You stepped back. Not far, just enough. Enough to say I understand and I'll wait, and 4 months is not forever. Same seat on Monday, you said. Your voice was soft but steady. He nodded. 3rd row. 2nd from the left. You picked up your bag. You walked to the door. You stopped, because this was becoming a habit and you were done pretending it wasn't, and without turning around. You can stop sending those notes to yourself. A silence that bred. There's someone who will hold them. You walked out. Professor Jeon's POV. He stood in the middle of his office for a long time. She'd said his name. Not Professor Jeon, Jungkook, like she'd had it on her tongue for a while, and finally decided it was safe to say. And he'd felt it in his chest, which was not ideal but was entirely honest. He'd wanted to close the distance. He'd wanted to, with a specific and inconvenient certainty, and he hadn't, because he was her professor, and because she had just told him about 2 years of people not being careful with her, and he refused, categorically, to become another item on that list. She deserved someone who waited when waiting was the right thing. Who didn't push simply because pushing was possible. Not yet, he'd said. And he'd meant it the way he meant everything, completely. His phone was on the desk. He opened the notes app. The one titled Lecture Thoughts. The one that had become, somewhere between September and now, something else entirely. He looked at the last entry. She knows. He deleted the whole thing. Every entry. 10 weeks of careful private thoughts, sentences started and stopped and filed away. He deleted them, one by one, until the app was empty and the note was blank. Then he opened his messages. He found her contact, unsaved, a string of digits he'd accidentally redirected his private thoughts to 4 weeks ago, and hadn't been able to bring himself to delete since. He typed. She said there's someone who will hold them. He looked at it. He pressed send. To her. Not to himself. To her, on purpose, for the first time, a private thought delivered with full knowledge of where it was going. He put his phone down, picked up the paper he'd been pretending to grade. Actually read it this time. Your POV? You were at the campus gates when it bust. Don't black heart. She said there's someone who will hold them. You stopped walking. He'd sent it to you. Deliberately. A private thought, delivered on purpose. Not a wrong number. Not an accident. You stood in the cold evening air, with your phone in both hands and your eyes doing something mortifying, and your chest doing something wonderful. You typed back. She meant it. 3 seconds. I know. Get home safe. You put your phone in your pocket. You walked home. The 4 months were not easy. That would be a lie. They were long in the particular way that good things are long when you are waiting for them, full of small moments that accumulated quietly, the way interest accrues, the way snow settles. He texted occasionally. Nothing that couldn't be defended as academic if anyone asked. The supplementary Wolf text is worth reading, for what it's worth, and everything that couldn't be, if you read between the lines. You texted back in the same register. Noted. And then, once, at 11 p.m. on a Wednesday, I read it. You were right. And then, because you were trying, don't tell anyone I said that. His reply came quickly for someone who was supposed to be asleep. Your secret is safe. You'd stared at that for a long time. Your secret is safe. Said by the one person who already held the most important one. There was one Thursday, mid-March, when seminar ran over and everyone else left, and you stayed behind to ask something genuinely academic about your thesis. You had prepared the question carefully, and it was a good question, and he answered it from across the room, and then somehow you were both standing at the same bookshelf looking for the same reference text, and his hand reached past you for the spine at the same moment you did. His fingers covered yours on the book. Neither of you moved. The room was completely empty, and the late afternoon was doing its cold thing through the window, and his hand was over yours, and he was close enough that you could feel the warmth of him at your shoulder. Found it, you said. Very quietly. Yes, he said. Also, very quietly. Not moving. You turned your head slightly. He was right there, close enough that the turn brought you almost face to face, almost close enough to be something you both wanted, and were both choosing not to take yet. His eyes dropped. Rose again. March, he said. Still not May, you agreed softly. He stepped back. Handed you the book. His fingers brushed your palm in the handoff, and it was entirely possible that was accidental, and entirely possible that it wasn't. 2 more months, he said. I know, you said. I counted. His expression did the thing, the almost smile, the one you'd catalogued from the 3rd row, and now got to see up close, which was considerably more devastating, and he went back to his desk, and you went back to your bag, and nothing happened. Everything happened. Epilogue. May. The last day of semester was a Tuesday. Grades submitted at 4 p.m. You knew because you'd watched the clock, the way you'd been watching calendars since November, not obsessively, just with the particular awareness of someone who knows that time is the thing standing between where they are and where they're allowed to be. At 4:15 your phone buzzed. Don't blackheart, grades are in. You read it once. Twice. I know. I watched the portal. Of course you did. There's a coffee shop 3 blocks from campus. Do you know it? Your heart did something loud and completely undignified. I might. I'll be there at 5. No rush. You put your phone down. You changed your shirt. You told yourself that was a normal thing to do and not at all significant. He was already there when you arrived. Not at a table, standing near the door, hands in the pockets of his jacket, looking slightly less certain than he did at the front of lecture halls. He was in dark jeans and a simple black jacket, hair down without the deliberate neatness of classrooms, and he looked like himself, not Professor Jeon, not the composed authority at the whiteboard, just Jungkook, a little uncertain, a little hopeful, very real. He spotted you the second you walked in. He always did. Something in his expression settled when he saw you. Like something that had been braced against uncertainty finally found its footing. "Hey," he said. "Hey," you said back. You stood in the doorway of a coffee shop in May with 4 months of waiting between you, and it felt nothing like 4 months. It felt like the first honest breath after holding one for a very long time. "I have something," he said, and reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his phone. Turned it toward you. "The notes." You looked at the screen. The Notes app. Open. Full, not of syllabus ideas, not of lecture thoughts, full of you. Sentences about the third row. Observations about the way you argued. A line that said she looked tired today, and I don't know why that made me want to do something about it. Another, she quoted a text that wasn't on the reading list, and I had to physically stop myself from asking how she found it. Another, dated November, I've started recognizing the difference between when she's listening and when she's about to say something. I don't know what to do with that. Your throat tightened. You kept them, you said softly. I deleted the app in December, he said. And then remade it and rewrote them because I couldn't, he stopped. I couldn't let them go. You looked up at him. He was watching you with that expression, the one that looked like you were something worth reading slowly, worth getting right, worth being patient for. And you thought about 2 years of building walls and arriving early, and keeping the true things behind your teeth, and you thought about trust and how expensive it was, and how you'd gone bankrupt on it before. And you thought, the ground has been holding for 4 months. You reached out and took the phone gently from his hand. Set it on the nearest table. Stepped closer. Jungkook, you said. Yeah, he said. Low. Already? It's May. His hand came up, slowly, carefully, and tucked a strand of hair behind your ear, and his fingers stayed at the curve of your jaw, and he looked at you the way he'd been looking at you, since the third row, like you were something he wanted to get completely right. Yeah, he said again, softer. You leaned up. He met you there. It was not a dramatic kiss. It wasn't urgent, or desperate, or any of the things 4 months of waiting might have made it. It was soft and certain, and careful the way both of you were careful, the way two people kiss, when they've taken their time, and they know it, when the waiting has made them sure. His hand curved around your jaw like you were something worth holding. Your fingers found the front of his jacket. When you pulled back, his eyes stayed closed for just a second longer, and that second, that small unbothered unguarded second, was the most beautiful thing you'd seen in years. 4 months, you murmured. His forehead dropped to yours. Worth it. You laughed softly. He felt it, you could tell, by the way something in him eased, the way the last remaining careful tension released in his shoulders. He pulled back just enough to look at you. His thumb traced your cheekbone once, light and unhurried. Coffee, he said. Coffee, you agreed. You sat across from him at a small table by the window. Not beside him yet, across, where you could see his face, where the table between you was small enough to be intimate but present, enough to say I'm still going to be careful with you. where the whole thing could be taken slowly. The way careful people did things when they'd finally found someone worth being careful for. He ordered for you without asking, your usual, which he knew because he paid attention, which was the thing about him that had undone you first and most completely. He put his phone on the table between you, the notes still open. You can read them, he said. All of them. If you want. You looked at the screen. Then at him. Read them to me, you said. Something crossed his face, warm and open and entirely unmanaged. He picked up the phone. He read you the notes. Outside, May did what May always does, continued, softly, without asking anything of anyone. The city moved around a coffee shop 3 blocks from a campus that no longer stood between you and inside. 2 careful people sat across a small table in the golden late afternoon and let something that had been waiting a very long time finally, completely begin. His forehead dropped to yours. And that was it. That was the whole thing. She came in quiet and brilliant, and so carefully guarded, and he waited, not because he had to, but because she deserved someone who would. And when May came, he was already there, at the door, slightly uncertain, so human. And she leaned up. And he met her there. Thank you for reading this. If you've ever been the careful one, the one who arrived early and chose their seat, and kept the true things behind your teeth, I hope you find your May. Like and comments are my entire personality. I love you all.